Over the last week, I've had a couple of things come across my desk, or actually across my screen, that I found very interesting. The first was an article from the London Times talking about a new phenomenon that is cropping up and getting to be more common, and that is something called AI psychosis. I guess there are a lot of people who are thinking that using these AI chatbots that are now very prevalent, right, is actually like talking to a real person. They think that these bots are sentient, right? And some people actually think that they're helping them to dive deeper into modern physics, and they're going to solve some mystery of the universe by conversing with these chatbots. And from reading this article, I guess that there are even some people who think that these chatbots are helping them to gain some superpower or super sixth sense. Which got me thinking, can we use these chatbots to do something like select a new motorcycle? Or is that going to lead us to AI psychosis? Now, the second thing that got me thinking about this issue was another post by Ken Condon. Yes, motorcycle trainer extraordinaire and the guy I go to learn how to handle my bike better. Now, I'll give him another plug here. If you want to learn how to handle your bike better, be more confident on it, well, check out his classes at www.ridinginthezone.com. It's well worth it. But Ken posted in a forum that he and I both belong to that somebody asked him this very question: should they use ChatGPT to help them select a new bike? And Ken responded that, well, you can do that, but be careful because most people overestimate how good they are, how well they ride. Right, so make sure that you're honest and that you ask the chatbot, right, to take into consideration your level of skill. So I decided to do just that. I decided to go out to ChatGPT and tell it that I needed to get a new motorcycle, or at least I wanted to get a new motorcycle. I told it my age, 66 years old. I told it that I was 5'9" and that I have a 31-inch inseam. And I said, I like to cruise around on the back roads and go out and travel by motorcycle. So what would you suggest that I get? Now, before I read you what ChatGPT said, I have to come clean and tell you that I am not a big fan of AI, or what we now call AI, and using it to make decisions for us. I think that we as human beings have far more knowledge and experience than it does and are capable of making our own decisions. But with that said, again, I thought it would be interesting to see what this algorithmic bot had to say. So here's what ChatGPT had to say. Absolutely. It sounds like you're looking for a comfortable, reliable, and confident, inspiring motorcycle that handles well on back roads, has a relaxed riding position, and isn't too tall or heavy. Given your height and inseam, you'll want a bike with a manageable seat height and balance for easy stops. Since you enjoy scenic travel, comfort over longer distances is also key. Again, overall, I agree with that. So what does it think that I should prioritize? Well, it says comfortable, upright riding position, seat height under 32 inches. Again, I have a 31-inch inseam. It should be light to moderate weight, says under 550 pounds is ideal. Should have wind protection. At least I should have an optional windshield. I should have luggage racks and things that are also available. And I'm going to want it to be smooth, responsive handling for twisty roads. And again, except for maybe the weight thing. I mean, my bike, well, it's over here. The Tiger 1200, well, it goes around 600 pounds. And also the seat height is a little bit more than 32 inches, and I'm able to handle it. But again, I have a bit more experience than maybe the average person out there. So here are its suggestions for categories and motorcycles within each one of those categories. So first it says I should look at mid-sized adventure touring bikes, things like the Yamaha Tracer 9 GT, the Kawasaki Versys 650 LT, and the Suzuki V-Strom 800 DE. Again, those are all great choices and actually ones I've suggested to people as well. Next, it said I can look at sport touring bikes, and it suggested things like the Honda NC750X with DCT, or the BMW F900XR, or maybe the Yamaha FZ07. Again, all good choices. So finally, it gave me some cruisers that I might want to look at if I'm interested in that category. So the Honda Rebel 1100, again with optional DCT, maybe the Indian Scout or the Scout Bobber, and the Harley-Davidson Heritage Classic. Now, of course, that one's a little heavier than it was suggesting, but again, depending upon what you're looking for and your experience, again, that can be a good choice as well. So next I asked the artificial entity if I should take my skill level into consideration when selecting a new motorcycle. And its answer was absolutely. Your skill level should definitely factor into your motorcycle choice, especially for comfort, safety, confidence, and long-term enjoyment. Well, I mean, those are kind of vague things, but okay. It says whether you're a returning rider after a break or a newer to motorcycling, the right match of bike to skill level makes all the difference. I mean, there's nothing wrong there, but it's, again, kind of just vague stuff. However, the chatbot does get into a little bit more detail. It says, here's why skill level matters. Power to weight ratio. A motorcycle that's too powerful can be intimidating, especially at low speeds or on twisty roads. So it suggests I look at middleweight bikes between 650 to 900 cc's. It also says that I should look at weight and balance. Again, because heavier bikes, well, they're going to be harder to ride, especially at slow speeds and so forth. Again, looking at something lower weight, right? Although now it gives me 550 to 600 pounds. Next, it says if you're concerned about your skill level, that you should look at a lower seat height bike, again, for obvious reasons. And also we should look at the riding position, that is your ergonomics on the bike, again, to be more comfortable and to be more confidence inspiring for you. And I think all of those things are reasonable things, right? And I'm sure that each of us have given those kind of those pieces of advice to new riders or returning riders. I mean, I know I have. So from there, it goes on to give some bike examples. If you're a new rider, it says take a look at things like the Honda NC750 DCT, Kawasaki Versys 650 LT, the Suzuki V-Strom 650, or the Honda Rebel 500 or the 1100. Again, good choices. Some of those probably aren't the perfect beginner bike, but again, they're really not bad. It does go on to say that if you are more experienced or you ride regularly, you can stretch yourself out to a middleweight adventure touring bike or more into a large cruiser, again, like the Harley we were talking about earlier, or maybe a more powerful sport touring bike like the Yamaha Tracer GT. Again, I can't fault that. I think that those are pretty good recommendations. Now, it does say also what you should avoid. So this is what, again, ChatGPT thinks. Very tall dual sport bikes, okay? Heavy full dressers like Gold Wings or Road Glides, etc. Something that is excessively powerful, again, leader bikes or super high-powered sport bikes, or anything that you can't straddle easily when you're coming to a stop. And again, I guess for a new rider, those are definitely good things to look out for. So my next instruction to ChatGPT was, well, what if I am a returning rider I haven't ridden in, say, 20 years? Well, this was its answer. It said, welcome back to riding. That's exciting, right? As a returning rider, you're in a great position. You've likely got past experience and muscle memory. But you're wise enough to respect the machine and want something confidence-inspiring. That's the ideal mindset to have. Okay, well, it's just assuming that that's my mindset, but okay, right? So it goes on to say, this is what I should look for, right? Smooth power delivery, comfortable ergonomics, manageable weight, and of course, tech and safety features like ABS, traction control, those kinds of things. And it goes on to list the same bikes that it has basically already given me. Now, here's one thing that I was a little surprised at, and I think that Ken Condon will also appreciate this. It says, pro tip for returning riders, take a refresher safety or skills course like the MSF Basic Rider Course 2 or Total Control Intermediate Riding Clinic. If available in your area, you'll feel sharper and more confident on today's bikes. Again, great advice, something I tell everybody in most of my videos. So my next question was, well, what if I'm a new rider? Is there anything different I should look for? And this is what it said, that for a new rider, I should look for a low to moderate power bike, right? I should look for a low seat height. I should look for something that is lightweight, between 450 to 500 pounds. I should look for a comfortable riding position, and I should look for modern safety features. Again, ABS, traction control, etc. As far as motorcycles that it suggests, we're going to look at this time a little bit smaller motorcycles than it has suggested before. The Honda CB500X, the Kawasaki Versys 300, X, I guess that is, the Royal Enfield Meteor 350, the Yamaha MT-03, the Honda Rebel 500. Now, what it says to avoid as a new rider, right, are high-powered bikes. Now, it says over 900 cc, but all of the examples that he gave are, well under 700 cc. So I probably can lower that number a little bit. Now, also, you should stay away from tall adventure bikes, heavy touring bikes, or aggressive sport bikes. Again, all good suggestions. Now, it also goes on to say, what are your next steps as a new rider? So it says, first, take the MSF Basic Rider Course or equivalent. Again, good on you, ChatGPT. So you'll get hands-on instructions, safety tips, and oftentimes your license like you can get here in Massachusetts. Then it says you should go and sit on multiple bikes at dealerships, right? Not just take ChatGPT's word for it. See what bikes feel like, do they feel good for you, etc. And it says start small, right? You can always move up. And I said many riders trade up within 6 to 18 months after they gain confidence, right? Again, that's true. Really, it's not just a time thing, but it's how many miles you put out there on that bike. So you should ride for, several thousand miles on a small bike, before you move up, at least ideally anyway. So then it goes on to say, well, if you want to give me more information, I can help you decide on a few bikes to focus on. But I stopped there. So after going through all this, I have to say that I think ChatGPT did a pretty good job of regurgitating, right, the information that, well, people like myself out there who are making videos, people like Ken Condon who are writing for magazines and, other motorcycle journalists have been saying these kinds of things for years and years and years. And ChatGPT is not making this stuff up because it has the experience of riding. It hasn't ridden any of these motorcycles, hasn't tested any of them, hasn't even seen them, doesn't even know what it's talking about, right? It's just regurgitating data, right, that it found out there that human beings collected through their experience and then wrote down or made videos or something, right? So ChatGPT isn't doing this. You are getting the collective experience of other writers. So as long as you understand that and you realize that these chatbots are nothing more than souped up search engines that are presenting data to you in a chat kind of format, right? A conversational format, right? Then they're great tools, right? You also have to take everything that they say with a grain of salt, right? And go out and read articles that real human beings wrote, right? And verify what the chatbot has to say, because they do make mistakes. Now, in this case, most of this information has been pretty good, right, as far as this finding a new motorcycle goes, right? But again, other things I found, like, for example, I did the video on creating a tour with a chatbot, and I found it to be not very good. I can do much better on my own, right? If I give it all of this kind of information, the tour that I already know that I want to have, well, yeah, it can recreate that for me. But if I just ask it to say, hey, create a motorcycle tour for me, it's going to come up with something that's pretty mediocre, right? I have to give it all kinds of information to get it to do what I already know that I want. So anyway, these are fun to play around with, but again, don't take them as gospel. Go out, make up your own mind, ride these motorcycles, sit on them, talk to people who own them, those kinds of things. That's still where it's at. All right, guys, I hope this was fun, but I know it was for me to play around with it. So go out there, ride safe, and of course, keep squeezing your lemon.